Badass planes, ranked. It's an impossible task to rank our favorite planes, but we decided to do it anyways. Listed are all the great aviation titans from commercial aircraft to devastating military bombers, ranked by their level of awesome. This list is entirely subjective, and it is also entirely correct. (13) Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. Love it or hate it, and there are plenty on both sides, the F-35 is the biggest and most important military aircraft program in the world today. First conceived in the Joint Strike Fighter program in 1992, the F-35 entered service in 2015, though serious technical problems remain, including issues with the stealth coating and night vision cameras. The F-35 is a multi-role aircraft to replace the aging fleets of F-16S, F-A-18S, A-10S, and AV-8Bs. Unlike them, it has the advantage of stealth and advanced sensors. An impressive helmet-mounted display not only replaces the traditional heads-up display projected on the canopy to show speed, fuel and other data, but provides infrared imagery at all angles so the pilot can see through the aircraft. The F-35 can act as a mobile sensor package, spotting targets and handing off data to less capable aircraft around it, boosting their effectiveness. (12) Boeing B-52 Stratofortress. 64 years after it entered service, the venerable B-52 is the most numerous aircraft in the USAF bomber fleet, having outlasted aircraft meant to replace it. Often called the buff, big ugly fat fellow is the polite version, the B-52 was designed in the depths of the Cold War as a nuclear bomber. It had the range to carry atomic warheads deep into the heartland of the USSR. Originally intended for high-altitude flight, it was modified for low-level operations when flying under the radar became essential. Another shift produced the Big Belly B-52 for conventional bombing, carrying 84 500-pound bombs internally and 24 750-pound bombs on wing pylons. Formations of B-52s wrought havoc in Vietnam with massed raids. The B-52 has a unique arrangement of 8 engines in 4 pods. All attempts to replace these with 4 new engines have been rejected, and a forthcoming upgrade will retain the 8-engine configuration. The B-52 is still going strong with no sign of giving up, and some predict it will keep flying for 100 years. (11) McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. Introduced in 1976, the F-15 was meant to be an unbeatable air superiority fighter, and it delivered. Its record in combat of over 100 kills with no losses is unrivaled. The twin-engined Eagle combines agility with speed, reaching Mach 2.5 at high altitude. It is equally capable of loosing long-range AMRAAM missiles, guided by its powerful APG-63 radar, or mixing it up in dogfights with short-range sidewinders. The F-15's potential for ground attack was later exploited in the F-15 E-Strike Eagle variant. This uses the plane's size and power to haul an impressive load of precision bombs. The basic design has proven so strong that even 40 years on the Eagle continues to be effective, with the F-15 SE Silent Eagle Stealth variant and F-15X Advanced Eagle threatening to undercut the advantages of more modern aircraft. (10) Aerospatiale or BAC Concorde. The first supersonic airliner, when it entered service in 1976, joint British-French Concorde cruised at more than twice the speed of sound. It could fly from London to New York in under 3 hours, less than the time difference between the cities, giving passengers had the unique experience of arriving before they took off. 4 afterburning jet engines were housed under the delta wings. Prolonged supersonic cruising caused the airframe to heat up and expand by as much as a foot in flight, sometimes visibly increasing the gaps between bulkheads. A distinctive feature was the hinged nose that dipped during landing and takeoff, giving the pilot a better view of the runway. Concorde was a cramped aircraft, despite only carrying 120 passengers, for what was supposed to be a first-class service. But for the few who could afford it, the joy of a supersonic Concorde flight was an unbeatable experience. (9) Supermarine Spitfire. The Spitfire won its place in history during the Battle of Britain, when a small number of Spitfire pilots were credited with beating the numerically superior Luftwaffe. It is possibly the most famous British plane ever made, and always immensely popular at air shows. The Spitfire remained in production all through World War II, with no less than 24 different marks being produced. The Spitfire was based on earlier Supermarine designs which won prizes for speed in the 1930s. The unusual rounded wing helps reduce drag and gave it a higher speed than other fighters of the day. The original Mk1 Spitfire was armed with 8.303 machine guns. As the war progressed and heavier weapons were needed, the Spitfire's engine was upgraded from a 1008 Boeing 747 jumbo jet. Dubbed the jumbo jet by the media for its enormous size, the 747 was the wide-bodied airliner that brought intercontinental air travel to the mass market. When it first flew with Pan Am in 1970 with 400 passengers, the 747 had the largest passenger capacity of any airliner. It held on to that record for nearly 40 years. The plane is so big that Boeing's 747 assembly building in Everett, Washington, is the largest structure by volume in the world. The 747's most distinctive feature, apart from those four giant Pratt & Whitney JT9D engines, specially developed for the jumbo, is its hump. This was originally added when the plane was intended as a military transport and the cockpit was put on top so cargo could be loaded through a hinged nose. Now the hump provides an exclusive upper deck for first and business class passengers. (7) Rockwell B-1 Lancer. More commonly known as the Bone, from B-1, the B-1 has battled through a storm of criticism and program cancellations to become a key element of the USAF's strategic bomber force. Conceived in 1970 as a Mach 2 high-altitude nuclear bomber to replace the B-58 Hustler and B-52, the B-1 was cancelled in 1977 but resurrected in the 80s due to delays in the more advanced B-2 Spirit. The new version was optimized for low-level, under-the-radar incursions at subsonic speeds. The B-1 has a combat radius of 3,000 miles without refueling and carries a phenomenal 125,000 pounds of bombs, the most of any bomber. After the START agreement of 1995, the B-1's nuclear capability was removed, and it was retasked as a purely conventional bomber. Now the AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile could give the B-1 a new maritime strike role, sinking vessels from outside the range of air defenses. (6) Vaught F4U Corsair. Introduced in 1942, the Corsair was the U.S. Navy's top carrier-based fighter of World War II. The Corsair was built around the liquid-cooled Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, the most powerful engine in the world at the time. This required an outsized propeller which in turn necessitated unusual bent wings to give sufficient ground clearance. The power of the engine was coupled with an unusually clean aerodynamic design. The body was assembled using a newly developed spot welding technique which gave a smooth finish. As a result, the Corsair was the first production aircraft which could exceed 400 miles per hour in level flight. The Corsair was fitted with 420mm cannon and could carry 1,000 pounds of bombs or rockets. This made it highly effective when providing ground support for the U.S. Marines on Okinawa and elsewhere. '5. Douglas DC-3. When the DC-3 first flew in 1935, it changed the face of air travel, introducing levels of reliability and comfort previously unknown. It also brought a considerable increase in speed, cruising at 200 miles per hour rather than the 100 miles per hour of earlier passenger planes like the Ford Trimitar. Passengers could fly from LA to New York in an unheard of 15 hours. There was even a sleeper service. Affectionately known as the Goonie Bird, the DC-3 was a big plane for the time, seating 21 passengers. Its speed and capacity finally made passenger transport profitable without government subsidies, and airlines like TWA, Delta and American built their fleets around it. In World War II, the DC-3 took on a new military role as the C-47 transport. Its reliability and ruggedness, landing on rough airfields was expected, were greatly appreciated. '4. Boeing B-29 Superfortress. The B-29 was the last word in World War II heavy bombers. Bigger was better, and the four-engine B-29 was world's heaviest production plane, superior in speed, range and bomb load to the B-17 which it replaced. Novel features included pressurized crew compartments for high-altitude flight, and up to 10.50 caliber machine guns in remote-controlled turrets. Massed formations of B-29s pounded Japanese cities in the closing stages of World War II with 12,000 pounds of explosives and incendiaries each, but the B-29 will forever be associated with another sort of bomb. Flying from North Field, in the northern Mariana Islands, the B-29 Enola Gay dropped the 15-kiloton Little Boy atomic bomb on Hiroshima in August 1945, and changed warfare forever. '3. Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. The legendary Blackbird was the fastest jet aircraft ever made, able to fly at an incredible Mach 3.5. Designed and built in total secrecy at Lockheed's Skunk Works, the SR-71 flew too fast and too high for Russian-made surface-to-air missiles to catch. All attempts to shoot one down with missiles or interceptor aircraft failed, with no missile able to maneuver in the thin air at high altitude. While the SR-71 did not quite reach the limits of space, only 85,000 feet, each mission had to be planned like a space shot, and pilots wore space suits. The high speed required an entirely new type of engine, which operated as a normal jet at low speeds, but above Mach 2 became a ramjet, using speed to compress the air intake. A titanium airframe was needed to withstand the intense heat of air friction. At high speed the leading wing edges glowed cherry red. In a classic Cold War operation, the rare titanium was acquired from Russia via bogus operations in third-party countries. The SR-71 retired in 1999, and while there has been plenty of talk of faster successors, like the fabled SR-72, the Blackbird is still in a class of its own. '2. Lockheed C-130 Hercules. In service since 1956, the four-engine C-130, or Herc, is still the definitive rugged tactical transport. It has operated from unpaved runways in every theater of operations from Vietnam onwards. Originally intended for cargo transport, the C-130 has been adapted for a huge variety of missions, from casualty evacuation to drone mothership, and from catching film capsules from satellites to picking up CIA agents from the ground via the Fulton recovery system. One version can even act as a flying TV and radio station for psychological operations. The AC-130 gunship version, aka Spooky, mounts an array of weapons including a 105mm howitzer, the biggest gun on any modern aircraft, as well as rapid-firing 40mm and 25mm cannon. It may be an old plane, but the C-130 is still full of surprises. 1. Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II. Better known as the Warthog for its looks, the A-10 is a slow, low-tech aircraft weighed down by armor plate and armed with a giant gun. It looks more steampunk than 21st century, but the A-10 is a battle-proven veteran that has won the hearts of the foot soldiers it supports, if not Air Force generals, who have repeatedly tried to retire it. The A-10 was introduced in 1977 as a straightforward tank buster to prevent massed Soviet armored divisions from overrunning Europe. It would survive by staying low, executing brief pop-up attacks, and with built-in protection including a titanium bathtub that encloses the pilot, proof against 23mm anti-aircraft cannon fire. For armament, in addition to a respectable bomb load, the A-10 has the mighty 30mm GAU-8 Avenger, a 7-barrel Gatling gun firing 70 armor-piercing rounds a second. The cannon takes up 1/6 of the A-10's weight. The A-10 has since been upgraded to deliver smart bombs and remains the close support aircraft par excellence.